Welcome back to Noise Avocation Podcast. I'm Ryan here with Jeremy as always.
How's everybody doing?
I feel like that's my intro at this point.
Yeah, and I just say, how's everybody doing?
Yeah, I've tried to make one that was more radio announcery, but that ain't me. So
Yeah,
I just can't do it. But anyways, thanks for tuning in this week. We have another guest here with us. I don't have a whole lot of stuff to get into news-wise. It's early on in the year, and there has not really been shit that's happened yet. But from what I've seen, like we mentioned before, there's a lot of cool releases in the works. There's a lot of cool labels putting stuff out. Like Heroes and Martyrs has just put out that Never Ending Game 12-inch. I know there's like a new, if you're a fan, I know there's a new Alkaline Trio album coming out soon. And, you know, I've been seeing some stuff pop up. So, but today we have Mark from Time Heist here with us. If you're unfamiliar with Time Heist, they're a straight edge band out of Denver, Colorado. And sort of on the newer side, he said, 2022 that they formed?
2022.
So more recently formed band, but they've already played quite a few impressive shows. And we'll get into that in the interview and everything. But unless you have anything, Jeremy, we're going to preview a song off their latest EP, The Odds Against Tomorrow. We're going to play the track Learn to Believe. So follow Time Heist. Their Instagram is in the episode description. Check them out on all streaming platforms and follow us on Instagram as well. YouTube, TikTok, all that good stuff.
Enjoy the show.
So, Mark from Time Heist, thanks for jumping on the show and bringing your dog with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me and having her.
What's your dog's name?
Billy.
Billy. And it's a
she?
Like Billie Jean?
Yeah, like Billie Jean.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I saw a Motown
She's
thing earlier, so Michael Jackson was kind of already in my head from earlier.
All right.
So I kind of cheated.
So anyways, man, thanks for taking the time to be interviewed. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
I was leaving my house, and my kid, he's 13, and he's like, oh, what are you going to do? And I told him, he's like, oh, are you interviewing somebody? I told him Time Heist, and he's like, oh, man, I love that band.
Sick.
And he knew about it?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, once you brought the band to my attention, Jeremy, and then I went and listened to the EP, I had already heard him listening to it in his room, and I was like, this sounds vaguely familiar. And then I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh yeah, shit. I was like,
together.
Okay. But yeah,
That's awesome.
My kid's big into music, probably picked up by me, I would assume. He's a little punk rocker himself, and actually he's kind of more of a metalhead at this point.
I feel like that's a big thing with younger kids right now, like especially like the either metal or like metal influenced hardcore bands. That kind of seems to be like what everybody's like super into right now.
Yeah, that's a boiling pot, man, for sure.
Well, I mean, like, look how popular like Turnstile and Knocked Loose got, and like, you know, bands like that they're not quite like the traditional hardcore, but they're kind of the newer era of stuff.
It's like they hit that crossover. I don't know. But Time Heist is definitely more of a straight edge band. I don't know. You guys kind of remind me of like a mix between like maybe Warzone, Shutdown, Over My Dead Body, and a little bit of The Promise, maybe. That's kind of how you sound.
Yeah, I mean,
interesting melting pot.
I mean, that's like, you know, I mean, it's like I got a side love of straight edge music. I've never been straight edge. I never would be. It's not my flag to fly, but I fucking love this shit because it's just so passionate and pissed the fuck off. Not so much that yours is so angry, which I do like the positive side of it.
Yeah, like all those bands that you mentioned, like, are definitely like at least like influences of mine. The person who wrote all of our songs like up to this point, Robert Cheeseman, when him and I started the band, like we kind of bonded over this love that we had for early 2000s indecision bands.
Oh,
like
yeah.
That were on that label. So Stay Gold, Faded Gray, Count Me Out, Over My Dead Body, all the Time Flies, like all that stuff that was coming out at that time that was like, it was fast and like it had an edge to it, or it was pissed off or whatever, but it was also really melodic and really catchy. Because like Robert like played in pop punk bands. He was in that band Day Trader. He's in another band called the Haverchucks, and so like that catchiness, that melody is like something that we wanted to have in our music, where it wasn't just like in your face fast hardcore. It had like a little bit more like melody to it.
Oh, definitely. It's like super catchy, man. Like, and you can definitely tell you guys are like musicians and are songwriters, or Robert Cheeseman is.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, over just like intro, verse, chorus, breakdown, and it's all like, you know, fuck you, kill a cop, you know, blow some shit up. Like, I like that you're saying positive shit, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, I'll say all of those things just in a positive way.
Right? No, for sure, for sure.
We'll sneak that stuff in on the next record.
It's just like nice to hear it though, in a melodic kind of poetic way, you know, the actual thought into it.
And it sort of gives it its own feel too.
Definitely.
Instead of just being like cut and dry, this is straight edge hardcore. Like it's a little bit of, like you said, melodic feel on it, which I appreciated.
And it's not, and all the lyrics aren't all about straight edge either, which is definitely cool. Or maybe they are, but I don't have to take them that way.
I think some are kind of open to interpretation.
Yeah, there are like 2 songs on the record that are like kind of like overtly about straight edge, but I didn't really want to write about straight edge because I don't think that like encompasses like the human experience that other people can relate to.
Right.
And we're definitely like not the kind of band that's like, if you're not straight edge, fuck you. We're, you know, like a lot of lyrics are like about positivity, about self-determination, and like, you know, like pushing through adversity and things like that. And I think that's stuff that everybody can relate to in one way or another. And, you know, I think we're not saying anything like wildly different than any other like hardcore bands. Like, I mean, we're basically like, if you take like Terror, like the first Lowest of the Low, we're saying kind of like the same stuff that Scott Vogel's saying on those songs. We're just saying it differently.
Definitely.
So
On that split, I really like the song "Never Too Late," where you kind of have that like Civ
hmm
nod, that Gorilla Biscuits nod. But
hmm
yeah, I like that. Like I can listen to that in the morning, and that'll like put me in a good mood to be like, yeah, I can kind of in like a fuck the world kind of mood. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
It's good
That's
Well, yeah,
stuff.
funny.
that
That's
song in
funny. That's how
particular,
that
like,
you
is
reference your good mood.
definitely
It is.
it's definitely like kind of geared more towards like people on the older end of the like hardcore fan spectrum. Because like I'm 42, and that one was definitely influenced by like an idea of like, like no whatever you've been waiting to do, just fucking do it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um,
That I say definitely a lot. I'm
and
sorry, I need to stop that shit. But it
no,
makes
you're
me
good.
it gives me that feeling. It definitely puts
Mhm.
that fire. See, I said it again in my belly. So, I mean, I
Hell
like it.
yeah, I love that. It's awesome.
Again, that's what I was thinking about Warzone. Because they used to cover all those straight edge songs, but they weren't straight edge, and
hmm
that's kind of that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Warzone like definitely kind of like made it cool to have that positive attitude, to like be about unity and be about like the idea of like having like a positive outlook. I feel like,
Yeah, like
more
there's
than
a
a lot of
better
bands, I
way.
think that's more what like Warzone's known for.
Yeah, I would agree. So, when did you guys start Time Heist originally? Was this a
We
spawn of a pandemic band?
No, me and Robert Cheeseman were in a band called Implied Risk that was a pre-pandemic band that kind of fell apart during the pandemic,
Mm,
um, because we just like couldn't get it together to practice, and people kind of lost interest and whatever. But Robert and I had talked about doing the straight edge band, and after we had kind of like decided Implied Risk was totally done, and then it was like, all right, well, what do we do now? Do you want to do the straight edge band? Yeah, let's do it. And we kind of took it from there. And I think so. We kind of initially, like, Robert and I, just the two of us, quote unquote, formed the band or created the band probably in the summer of 2022, and then we had the demo out, or the EP out, October of 2022.
okay.
Played our first show October of 2022.
It's a really, really good sounding first EP, I will say. A lot of
Yeah, I attribute a lot of that to Robert's technical ability. He went to like school for like sound engineering. He had worked under Kurt Ballou at God
God
City for
City,
a while.
get out of town. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so he knew what he was doing when we recorded stuff. So I think that helped us out a lot.
Well, I noticed on the back of the split that I actually received today that he was the
Oh, awesome.
engineer on the back, because that's like I had a question because I was like, how I really like the sound and how your vocals are mixed in, and they're not super buried but they're not too bright, they're like they sit in there nice.
hmm
And so that was cool that I was like, okay. And then I also noticed that there is a doctor in the band.
Yeah, Dr. Robert Garcia.
Yeah, so what's he a doctor of?
I think he has his doctorate in education, I think.
Really?
So he's not like a medical doctor,
Well, no,
but
no,
he has
not at all.
I
But
think he has his
still, you have a doctorate and
PhD in education. Yeah.
and you're in a hardcore band, like taking over, man, taking over.
Yeah. Um, our drummer, well, no, he's the only one that has like a higher degree.
I'm a welder.
Yeah,
I don't have I have no degrees.
no, I mean, I couldn't weld anything. So you're you're way ahead. And when society collapses, your skills will be much more important than mine are.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah,
As long as you
but
have a welder.
Yeah, as long as there's electricity.
yeah, well, we'll figure that out. But somebody's going to need to weld shit together.
Yeah.
But
Can't make a
yeah,
Mad Max
there was
vehicle
like
out
some
of Bondo. sorry, go ahead.
Oh shit.
in order to differentiate between the two Roberts, Robert Cheeseman's nickname is Queso or Cheese. So we would call
okay.
him Queso or Cheese, and then other Robert we would call him Doc.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So on that EP, are you having that remastered by Heroes and Martyrs, I believe?
Yeah, so we did. We wanted to repress it, and we decided not to repress it with Crime Wave, which was the original label that put it out. So we wanted to kind of make it like as much of a new thing as we can. So we had James Carroll, who did the original art, kind of do a remix of the artwork for the jacket and do like a proper insert for it because we didn't have a proper insert for the first pressing. And then we had it remastered by Brad Boatwright, and we added an 8-song live set to the B-side. The original B-side was just a silkscreen artwork on the
okay.
B-side, and so we put that live set on the B-side to kind of add something else to the release. And that actually, the order for the vinyl went in today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When
So
will that be out?
pre-orders will hopefully start in a couple weeks.
Right on.
When is the release date for that? Like the shipping date?
I'm not 100% sure because like we just put in the order today, so we're not really sure like what the turnaround is looking like for the plant.
Okay.
With Record Store Day coming up and a lot of like bigger labels like putting in orders.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna affect it, but we're using the same pressing plant that we've used for the last 2 releases, and they've blessed us with really good turnaround times. So hopefully that'll continue, and this one won't take too long to get back to us.
Yeah, it seems like there's a few indie plants out there that have like a decent turnaround on smaller runs of things instead of having to get it into somewhere like, I don't know, Third Man, for instance, who's doing major label releases and represses of like legacy musicians and shit like that. So it's cool to see that there's some indie labels or plants that are, helping the indie bands get their shit out there in a reasonable time so they don't have to release something and then get it a year down the road like how it was for a while.
Yeah, and I know like there was, especially during the pandemic, when like a lot of these pressing plants were running behind on production, there were some plants that some plants that work with independent artists that were getting hit up by major labels to do these like 50,000 copies of a Dolly Parton record or something like that. And some of those plants actually turned those down because they knew it would just completely fuck over all the independent artists that they were working with.
Fuck, good for them, man.
Yeah,
$50,000 part. I mean, they do it too. They do it.
No, I know they do it all the time. I mean, look at how many times Fleetwood Mac gets repressed.
Oh yeah, and I think I won't mention the name of the plant that I heard about this, but the guy that I know told me that they got hit up to do, I think it was like 50,000 copies of the Dolly Parton record, and they were only going to be sold at Cracker Barrel.
What?
I didn't even know Cracker Barrels sold records.
Yeah. Cracker Barrel,
apparently they do now. Yeah.
Our Cracker Barrel just sells liquor and lottery tickets, but I know there's like some of them that have like.
There's the Cracker Barrel like restaurant.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The restaurant, and then there's like ones with candy shops and shit in them or whatever. But yeah, ours is just like.
Yeah.
Ours is like right next door to a homeless shelter, so it's just like prime time.
Okay.
Drink. Like it is always busy there, but there's no restaurant and stuff. It's like just pretty much a liquor store.
Speaking of liquor and straight edge, how is that out in Denver?
It's interesting. There's definitely not a big straight edge scene here. There are kids who are straight edge that come to shows, but it's definitely not as big as it is in some other places. But yeah, living in like especially like when rec marijuana was like first legalized here, the boom of it was like it felt like living in an issue of High Times.
Dude,
Like
I mean, I can
every
only remember TV then. Like
Yeah.
every news, they were like, "There's a million people. I'm just getting my bag, dude."
oh yeah, it's that people went nuts, and like everybody that could open their own dispensary, and so it was nuts for a while. But like on the other side of that, like it was good for the Colorado economy. Like a
Oh,
lot
I'm
of
sure,
places that
dude.
had been like
Boom.
vacant buildings like were occupied now, and um, gave a lot of people jobs and stuff like that. But it was like I don't mind people that smoke weed, but I think weed culture is just corny as fuck.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
so like to be like basically like just completely blasted with that for however long it was, like when the initial like excitement of marijuana happened, it was like, okay, I'm fucking over it. Like
You can
I
only
get
take
it.
Jay and Silent Bob for
Everywhere
so
has
long.
weed. Yeah. Yeah, and like Colorado has like an insane amount of breweries, and it's interesting because like you when you meet people, that's like a lot of what people bond over here, like especially like normal people, like not as much punk rock people, but they like talk about like their favorite breweries, and they wear their brewery t-shirts, and that's how they socialize, is they go to breweries every weekend, and they take their dogs, and it's like this big social thing here. So like when you tell people that you don't participate in that, it weirds them out a little bit.
Oh,
um
we get that, and we're not even straight edge. Like it's
mhm.
kind of like that around here in the sense of if you're not like walking your dog and going to the, and drinking, then like something's wrong with you. We get that for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I was like, I read a lot of news articles, and I was reading a couple the decline in alcohol sales, and how like the alcohol industry has taken a big hit in the last couple of years, and there's starting to be breweries like in Colorado that are going bankrupt, and it's kind of interesting because now you see a lot more non-alcoholic beer
Oh,
in
ugh.
like grocery stores,
Yeah.
especially. And like I'm gonna admit this, I drink non-alcoholic beer. I like it.
Okay,
I
before
I
you get past that, I have a follow-up question.
okay.
Is it like the taste of it, or what is it? Because like to me, like I'm not a drinker, so I don't like beer, but like alcoholic or
Uh,
non-alcoholic, it doesn't matter. But when I think NA beer, I think like Bush
So
NA,
do
you know
I,
what I mean?
man. Yeah.
So
yeah,
and it'd be like the
the crappy
guys,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be like the guys that are like, oh, I can't drink right now. I got to start my car with a breathalyzer, so I'm drinking NA beer. And
Hmm.
so I always like associated it with that. But like, what is the benefit, I guess, to drinking NA beer? I imagine
Well,
there's
so like
fancier ones by now.
for me personally, I like the taste of beer. I liked the taste of beer when I drank,
Uh huh.
and I've been straight edge for 21 years, so I wasn't drinking during the time where like craft beer was a big thing.
Right.
So like I up until I started drinking NA beer, I had no idea what an IPA tasted like. I had no idea what like a
Like
lot of these like fancy beers,
yeah, tastes
kind
like
of do.
tastes like a
And
ringed out gym sock.
that's I some of them, yes. I don't my wife is like trying to cut down on drinking, and she's been drinking like my NA beers that I get. And according to her, there's like certain brands that we buy that are really close to the real thing as far as taste.
Right.
Yeah, you got her in
But
there to like test that against.
yeah, I mean like she knows better than I do. And like I work at a restaurant that has a bar, and I bartend, and the beer reps have been bringing us non-alcoholic beer recently to like try out in the bar. So it's becoming a big thing. And like I watch a lot of soccer and like Premier League and stuff like that. And the advertisements for Heineken Zero are like constant on Premier League games right now, or the Ashi Super Dry, which is like the Japanese beer, and then the like non-alcoholic version of it. There's advertisements for those like all over the place, and like billboards for non-alcoholic beer like all over Colorado now. So it's like
Man,
becoming a huge thing.
I'd like to say I'm surprised, but I'm not, because I've seen like water
weird.
bars, like with fancy
Oh,
water and stuff. So like, it's not
Mhm.
surprising.
when I drank, I just like, especially beer, man. I just drank to get fucked up. I wasn't trying, you know. So like, I guess I don't really like the taste of beer, but I just wouldn't drink. I never really liked drinking though, I guess. So I wouldn't want the NA Bush. I just think NA Bush, I guess, or
That's what I
whatever.
always think of too. So
But I find it hard
Yeah.
to pay like $10 for like whatever, you know.
are you ever like drinking an NA beer at a show? And like some straight
Yeah.
edge kid comes up to you all confused, like, dude, what the fuck? Like, you just got up there and played this straight edge set, and now you got a Heineken in your hand.
Well, like I wasn't sure how like younger kids would react to it. So I asked Alex from Moral Law, who's like a vegan straight edge band from here. And he's young, he's like in his early 20s. And I was like, hey, what do you think about NA beer? And he was like, oh, I was drinking one the other day.
Weird.
I was like, okay, so like it's cool. He's like, yeah, like who fucking cares? Like,
Well,
okay,
yeah,
so
that's
like
not.
if
There's
a
no
younger
drug
kid,
in it.
yeah. So like I look to him as like the authority of as like the younger straight edge people in
Yeah.
Colorado, and if it's cool with him, I'm assuming it's cool with everybody.
Okay. That shit, I learned something new today. I've never heard of, I guess I never thought about that. Like, just to put that into perspective, because like I said, we associate it with like cheap, shitty NA beer. So I'm just like picturing, fucking throwdown up there, like drinking an O'Doul's. Like, I don't know, it just
Yeah,
seemed weird to me.
Tecate Zero or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Just seemed odd to me.
Yeah. I think if it was like bullshit stuff that like didn't taste good, I mean I wouldn't drink it anyway because like I you know
Right.
I value good tasting foods, good tasting beverages and stuff like that. But like a lot of it for me was like I don't like soda.
Okay.
Like
I don't really either.
every time I drink a Coke, I just feel gross.
Yeah.
Like from all the sugar, and I don't like diet sodas. Like those, they're just gross. And like I don't really like the flavored waters, like the Polar or like any of that shit. And like it gets kind of boring only drinking like coffee, tea, and water, which is basically like all I was drinking.
Yeah, I just drink tea and water basically with ginger ale occasionally.
Mm, yeah. So I wanted to add something to like, my beverages that, wasn't going to make me feel gross or like have a ton of sugar in it or have a ton of salt in it.
Right.
Go with something like, is easy to enjoy. And it kind of like filled that gap for me. But yeah, Alex from Moral Law said it was cool. So
He's the gatekeeper for the
Go-
young generation.
go with that.
You got to listen to the
straight
young
edge
heads.
community. Yeah.
That's funny though. I never thought about that. I wonder if there's gonna be like a whole wave now of like NA beer drinking straight edge bands from the outside looking in. People are like, wait a minute, they're drinking.
Well, like I remember people always drinking like root beer at parties. Like around here, like the straight edge kids would drink root beer, or we'd like get into shotgun fucking Mountain Dews, and so I could see.
And they all have diabetes now, right?
No, he's good, and I could see how that could take off now. It's just, I guess it just seems weird because we just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, and I'm not like trying to like endorse
You're
like NA beer drinking. Like it's like a.
It's okay. You
But
can do it.
I wanted to admit it, and I want to get it out there because there is going to be some kid at some point that's going to see me at a show
Yeah.
drinking an Athletic or a Heineken Zero, and they're going to be like, they're going to think it was a real beer, and I'm telling you, it's not. It's NA beer. and tell your friend fuck you.
You heard it from the man himself.
Okay.
At least it's not like the old days where like straight edge bands were beating people up for
That's why
smoking
I have
cigarettes
one
and shit.
question. Was it cool did you drink NA beer when you were with Slapshot?
Yeah, they actually.
Then that makes it cool. Then I'm like, it's cool.
Okay, so I'm not gonna out who it was.
Don't have to.
But that was a 3-band package. There were 2 older bands and 1 younger band. And in one of the older bands that wasn't Slapshot, there's a person who was getting NA Guinness on their rider at every show.
What? Huh. No bass, eh?
And so when I said, hey, can you throw some of this NA beer on the rider too so I can have some?
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Sweet.
That's a good idea. Something else to add to it.
Nice. Well, we might have to
get
on that later. It's NA beer craze here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny, like, especially like, you know, as people get older, I know a lot of people who would like, you know, a long time ago would have made fun of me for being straight edge or would have like, you know, had something snarky to say about it. And now I'm like encountering those same people and they're like, oh yeah, my doctor says I gotta stop drinking, or I'm pre-diabetic, so I gotta stop like doing this. And it's like all that stuff is like starting to catch up with them, and they're like, huh, maybe I should have been thinking about sobriety a little bit more, slowed down a little bit. Like maybe this guy wasn't an idiot for not getting fucked up with us.
And people never like stop their bad habits until a doctor's like, yeah, you should probably do this, or you're gonna, you know, you're pre-diabetic, or you're going to die, or whatever the circumstance is. Like, it's funny because like,
it's crazy that it takes that much for some people.
You'll see people like at the gym that are like, oh yeah, my doctor said I got to start walking, and they're like 65. I'm like, that didn't occur to you in life, like up until this point? Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, you're right though, man. I find it amazing at how lazy people really are, though. You know.
Yeah, well, and like just how people like will ignore like basic health advice.
Yeah,
and, like,
just don't think about it; it'll go away.
Bad about this.
Oh,
men are especially bad at going to the doctor. Like my wife has to yell at me about like getting annual checkups and like getting my cholesterol checked and stuff like that. But that's why women live longer.
Well, we don't have time for that kind of stuff, man. There's more important things.
Because you're too busy welding things, so you can't go to the doctor.
Yeah, or talking to you, something, man, something better than going there.
Okay.
So since we're talking about like not drinking at shows, so how long? I guess you say how many shows have you played, but how long have you been out playing, and any plans for future playing?
Yeah, so we played our first show October 1st, 2022. And we played like every couple months in Denver. Got pretty lucky and got on some like pretty big shows. Like we opened for Madball, and we opened for Slapshot when that tour came through here.
Like Gorilla Biscuits and H2O.
Yeah, we opened for Gorilla Biscuits. And then we played with like some really good, like, you know, smaller touring bands. Like Combust was who we played with at our first show. I'm trying to remember. It seems like we played 1 million shows, but I know we haven't. And we did a 5-day US tour. US tour. We did a 5-day California tour, and we played with like Powerhouse and Omnigon at Gilman.
Powerhouse is so tough.
Oh yeah. I fucking love that band.
Yes, sir.
In LA we played like it's kind of like 1-day fest with like DFL played, and who else played? Count Time.
Oh, that's another band I fucking dig right now.
Yeah, End Days played. I'm trying to remember. But yeah, so that 5-day tour like went really well. We like definitely are trying to make it back to California like sometime this year. But the next thing that we have coming up, and we played Flyover Fest in Oklahoma. That was awesome. Very, very cool fest. Very like awesome crowd. Like I think a lot of people would kind of be like, Oklahoma. Like no one lives in
I
Oklahoma.
was
Yeah,
gonna
I've
ask.
never. Yeah, I don't know.
I never been to Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
even
that's
think I've
like
ever
Tulsa's.
met anybody from Oklahoma, to be honest with you.
I don't know that like people that live there like want other people telling people this, but like Tulsa, Oklahoma is actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like
they wanted
there's
their
like good
kept
food
secret.
there,
Yeah.
good coffee. Like
Yeah.
it's a good place for a fest. So I would say like anybody, like
Damn
you see the
good
Flyover
coffee.
Fest lineup and there's people that few bands that you want to see on there, like don't be afraid to go to Oklahoma. It's actually cool. But yeah, so in June we're going to Europe. We're going to be over there for 3 weeks. We're playing the first show is a festival called Ain't Like You Festival. And it's like Bane and Slapshot, Integrity, Conservative, like tons of awesome bands
Yeah,
are on
Agnostic
that.
Good
And
for
Front.
you,
then,
man. That's fucking sick.
GBH is on there.
yeah,
The Casualties.
I was gonna say, why haven't you come to the fucking East Coast, Midwest? But like,
D's
I get it.
Nuts.
These nuts.
we're
Yeah,
working
D's
on it.
Nuts is playing.
We're
Shit.
working on it. We might be coming that way in like August or September.
Oh, we'll
To the East
definitely
Coast.
be keeping our eyes open for that.
Yeah, it like I really want to go play Buffalo. I really want to go play Detroit. I heard Columbus is popping right now. Indianapolis, like a bunch of places like that in the Midwest, like are places that we definitely want to hit as soon as we can. It's hard because like, we don't have a van. So like for the California tour that we did, we just rented a minivan and borrowed gear, like as much gear as we could. So like when we do these little like week long like weekend tours or whatever, like we're definitely like having to fly there,
Yeah,
play
that
the
gets
shows, and then
expensive.
fly back. So the logistics are a little bit different than if we actually like lived on the East Coast and all these cities were like just a couple hours from us. Like it's like 8 or 9 hours to get to Salt Lake,
Right.
or 7 hours to get to New Mexico, or to 10 hours to get to Kansas City. So we're like being where we are, it's difficult to like get out and play different places.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that Salt Lake City was that far away, but
I mean, you got like mountains and shit to
Yeah.
drive around. So
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the drive from here to Salt Lake is the one that like all kinds of bands have like flipped their vans on, and like bands have had people die like from van
Yeah,
crashes and
dude.
stuff, because that pass from going up through Wyoming across into Utah gets like these crazy windstorms.
Now that you mention that, I can think of a band that had a wreck, and I think it was out in the Utah area, like, and it was probably that highway you're speaking
Well,
of.
I think it was it Bleeding Through?
That's what I
that you're
was gonna
thinking
say.
of?
It was bleeding through, and they lost all their gear and shit. Like, like their
Yeah. Well, and
guitars
then
snapped. The fuck, everything was lost.
they were being interviewed by the news, and while they were being interviewed, another van crashed
Oh,
like on camera behind them.
holy shit! I don't
Yeah.
remember that. I'm
So
gonna
it's
have to
like,
look that up.
yeah, so like that's another thing that we got to consider is like, okay, well, like if we're going to drive out or borrow a van from somebody, like what's the weather going to be like? Like are we going to
Fucking
have to
death
like,
ride.
yeah, like are we going to have to, how many like mountain passes are we going to have to go through, and are they going to be closed, and all that stuff. So it just, yeah, for being from Colorado, like, I wish that we could do more. But there's like some limitations to that. And they're like, I mean, there are bands from Colorado that do a lot more touring than we do. Like Destiny Bond and Moral Law's done um, a little bit more touring than we have, but they own their own van, so it's a little bit
That's a
easier
big
for them.
difference, yeah. So after the remaster, are there any plans for a full length coming up?
The plan right now is we're going to go record a chunk of songs, and I I honestly like don't think people care about full lengths anymore. Like
we do.
no one's going to sit down and listen to like a 13 song record. especially for us, where like most of the songs kind of generally sound the same. um, I feel like bands are doing it better when they're releasing like shorter releases that come out more frequently. Like a really good example of that is like Conservative Military Image.
Yeah, I
Like
will say
they'll
that.
drop like, but it keeps people engaged. And you're not like, you're not putting out like one big like 13 song record and then going 2 years before you release something else.
I'll give you
Yeah,
the consumer flip side of that coin is if a band is pressing or putting out like say 3 EPs and then like dropping all these singles and there's physical copies, it's almost harder to grab all of that shit sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
oh yeah. Well, and it's especially hard when the band is like only pressing stuff from European labels.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
and that's definitely something that like I take into consideration because I'm a record collector, and when it's a band I like, I do want to be able to buy like a physical copy of everything. And for certain bands, I'll buy every color and I'll try to buy a test press. So like taking that into consideration, I think like what we did with the first EP was the first release of it was on tape.
Okay.
And then we were like, well, we'd like to press this on vinyl. So we were thinking we were going to have to do it ourselves, and then a label came along and was like, oh, we'll put it out on vinyl for you. So we were like, awesome. So it ended up being a vinyl release that sold pretty well, and now we're getting ready to do the second pressing of it. But I think for our future stuff, like we're definitely not going to be like a band that puts out like 2 songs on a 12-inch every 4 months or every 3 months.
Right.
We'll probably do like a tape or like something like that, then becomes a vinyl release later as like more of a collection of like songs that we've put out.
That seems to be
That
kind of an
yeah,
ongoing thing
that
right
is
now,
a lot.
actually.
I think that's a good way. Yeah.
Well, because tapes are cheaper, the turnaround's quicker, and there's a booming market for them right now.
But I like that what you're saying
Oh, yeah.
about like let's say you put out 6 fucking tapes over a couple of years and then put out
A double album.
of all of them
Yeah.
or whatever, however you want to do that. I like that idea as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know like Cold Cave did
Yeah,
that.
and that's like, yeah, Cold Cave did that. Old Firm Casuals did that. From what I understand, it was pretty intentional that they did that demo. The demo came out on vinyl, and they did like a couple more singles, and then they did a ton of splits with other bands, and then they put out For the Love of It All, which was like a collection of everything that had come out.
Yeah,
And
that's
then they did
fucking
like a couple
genius.
longer EPs after that.
Yeah, that's cool as fuck.
Yeah, and I like doing splits. Like I hope that we get to do more of them in the future. There's a couple bands that we've talked to, like international bands that we've talked to about doing splits, and just hasn't been able to materialize yet. But that's something that we're hoping to release like in the future, is more splits like the one that we did with Without Love.
Yeah. I was gonna say that I would have never. I mean, that's the cool thing about splits, I guess, is I would have never probably run across that band, and they're great. Without Love.
I think that's
Mhm.
the whole point of the split.
No,
really
it's just
is
like
for one band to help bring
um,
light to the other and vice versa.
what did I? There was another one
Combines
that
fan
just
bases.
came out. Carried by Six and Hold My Own. That was another dope ass one that came out.
You guys, the Time Heist Without Love split that you did the vinyl for, is that actually supposed to be Morrissey on the cover, or is it a coincidence?
No, well, okay, so I will actually like I'll tell you kind of the story of what happened. So the toy drive that we were doing was a Fight Like Hell reunion, and there was a guy who played in Fight Like Hell named Joaquin Romero, who was a boxer, and he was a boxing trainer. He owned his own gym, and he passed away a year and a half ago. and the show was like kind of a memorial to him, but not overtly. Like it was more like, you know, getting toys for you know, like these underserved communities and stuff like that that we could donate. But I wanted to throw like a little bit of a nod to that, to Joaquin. So he's like a big, you know, big part of like a lot of our lives. But I just had this guy, Chris Watts, who's done some art for us in the past. I just told him like draw a boxer, like a traditional tattoo looking boxer. And like I didn't say anything to him about Joaquin or any of that. Like I think he knew Joaquin, but he like wasn't really close with him. And he sends me back the art, and the boxer looks exactly like Joaquin.
That's awesome.
And I was like, okay, we can't do that. Like that's too. It was like it almost like
Oh, it was
felt
almost
wrong.
like creepy.
Like yeah, like how much he looked like him in the art. And I showed it to like the other dudes in the band. They were like, yeah, no, we can't use that. And I was like, okay, well, I have to like figure out a way to like tell him to draw this differently so it doesn't look like this person. So I was like, yeah, just like make him look like Morrissey, but not Morrissey.
Pulled it off.
And he was like, okay, yeah. So like if you look at it, like it doesn't look exactly like Morrissey, but it could be Morrissey.
It could be that brother. It could be like a bastard child we don't know about. It's definitely close.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look exactly like him, but when I seen the picture and I read the hashtags, I was like, oh yeah, it does kind of look like Morrissey.
Yeah. Well, and like especially in Denver, like everybody knows that I'm like a huge Morrissey apologist and Morrissey fan. So that a lot of people like would have automatically made that association with me anyway. So I kind of like wanted to make fun of myself in that like, yeah, I know it looks like Morrissey, but it's not supposed to be Morrissey, but it kind of is.
Fuck that. I like Morrissey.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about his attitude. I'm just talking about his music.
Well, he's a turd, but like
yeah, to say the least.
It's funny because there are people of the New York Dolls that are bigger turds that people jock
when he was younger,
that make fun of Morrissey or like talk shit on Morrissey. It's like, oh, you like this guy, but you think Morrissey's a piece of shit? Like, nah, it's
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, like you're picking and choosing who you're making your villains.
Yeah, I've read like I always think back to Marilyn Manson's book where he talks so much shit about Morrissey throughout that whole thing. It's funny.
Oh, well, yeah, and then Marilyn Manson ended up being a way bigger piece of shit than anybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that came as a surprise.
No.
Like he kind of started off his career with that image and then just wrote it out for this long.
Yeah, and people were like, "Oh wait, it wasn't an act? Like he actually was like that?" Yeah, well,
surprise.
He has an interesting book though. It's good for a lot of laughs.
I haven't read it, and like I'll admit, like I really liked Marilyn Manson. Like right around the time I like started to discover like punk and hardcore, I also discovered like Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson and that kind of stuff, and I was a really big fan for a long time. And then
I like him. I just wasn't until like agree with his choices that he makes. His politics, like let's say, even though they're not politics, but we'll just keep it at that.
He'll just leave it like that, yeah.
Yeah. The first two records that Marilyn Manson put out were awesome. Like really fucking good. And I kind of like as his career went on, I kind of like lost touch of it, but still like really liked and appreciated those first two records. But yeah, it is what it is.
So going back to you guys' stay in Europe that you're going to be doing, you talked about the one show. What is some of the other shows that you guys are going to be doing there?
Yeah, you said 3 weeks, right?
Yeah. So we're like in the process of getting everything confirmed now. That one show is the only one that's been announced. We are going to like be on some shows with some other bigger bands that are going to be in Europe at the same time. Can't really say who, just because it's not confirmed.
That's fine. You don't want to jinx yourself.
And we are on one other fest, but we haven't been announced on it. So it's like our booking agent, like, you know, Europeans, like, they go on holiday for like 3-4 weeks at a time because they're European and that's what Europeans do.
I want to be European.
So he, yeah, me too.
You were over the summer.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, so he's getting back from holiday, so we'll probably hear more pretty soon about like some of the other shows that are getting confirmed.
That's solid.
Yeah, we'll stay tuned for those announcements.
Oh yeah, we'll be posting those as soon as they come through. I'm super fucking excited about going to Europe. Like I went over there in 2018. I did merch for Street Dogs, and it's like, you hear bands talk about like how different it is touring the States versus touring Europe, but you can't really like get a grasp of it until you go over there and experience it.
So what's your experience like?
It's just like people over there just have like their passion for music is a lot different in the way that they interact, and just like the way that like they have the infrastructure already set up to take care of bands in terms of like hospitality and stuff like that. And like, you know, a lot of these festivals, like, they get subsidies from, you know, the government of like whatever country it is. And so I just think that there's like just a general like greater appreciation of the arts. And
I would totally agree with that.
And that transfers over into music and into like, you know, what these festivals end up being, and, you know, giving bands the ability to like play these places throughout Europe and just have kids show up and just be super stoked on it. And like, we, you know, one thing we noticed, and one thing that like really motivated us to go to Europe, was like a lot of the people that were reaching out to us to buy merch and to buy records and to like, you know, ask us question about the bands, like, were like at first like a lot of people from Europe, especially people from Germany. So it's like, oh, well, like, you know, I'm not mailing 15 records to New York, but I'm mailing 15 records to Germany.
It seems like it's been that way for a long time.
First.
Yeah, I mean, and even like those big festivals over there, there's, you know, which I'm sure you have, we all have, where we'll watch a band play to 100 people, and then in Europe they're playing to like 120,000, and everybody's going fucking crazy. You know, it's just total extremes, dude. Blows me away.
Yeah. But I'm like, I will say like I, you know, California, we saw a little bit of this. In Denver, we're seeing a lot of it. Like post-pandemic, like tons and tons of people are coming to shows, and you're getting more of that crowd that like doesn't care who's playing, they just want to go off. So like, I feel like all over the place, like shows are getting better attendance, bands are getting better reactions. Like it's a great time for hardcore right now.
I couldn't agree more.
And I think you can attribute a little bit of that to like, you know, like the Turnstile effect, or like TikTok kids or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, if more people are coming to shows, that's better for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you know, the bands are playing to more people. They're hopefully selling more merch. They're hopefully making more money off the door. You know, the promoters are more motivated to bring in more hardcore bands because tons of people are coming up to see them.
Yeah, so and it'll be like the younger crowd that drives that. Like, it's not going to be like a bunch of dudes past 40 that are like salty that it's not the golden oldie days, and so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, so they're like, fuck that, I'm not going there. Turnstiles there, they're not hardcore. You know, then you have nothing. So your arrogance ruins the whole scene.
Yeah, and it, you know, it turns those younger, because like you can take a kid whose first exposure to hardcore is Turnstile, and you'd be like, oh, you like that band? You should check out this band. Yeah. You should check out this band.
It's their gateway.
And yeah, and like that's how I found out about bands when I was younger. Is I knew older dudes who like had moved to New Mexico from the East Coast, and like they were like, "Oh, you like Terror? Listen to Underdog, listen to Judge, listen to Alone in Crowd, listen to Killing Time, listen." I got fed all of those older bands from older people in the scene. And if they had just been like, "Oh, this kid doesn't fucking know anything, he listens to fucking, Poison the Well, like that's not real hardcore," or whatever, somebody would have said at the time. I never would have gotten that education, and I probably wouldn't still be involved in hardcore.
Yeah, I don't like that elitism fucking gateway bullshit.
Gatekeeping.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah. Ironic that it got brought up because we were literally just talking about it. Like our last interview, we were talking about black metal people gatekeeping.
Oh, yeah.
Deciphering what's real and what's not and whatever.
Yeah. That I don't know a lot about black metal, but it seems like there's a lot more intricacies.
I just think every
genre.
scene has
Yes
their
and
own
no.
fucking thing, like every scene's gonna have that, like, oh, we're the fucking true blah blah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, yeah, it would go that way with anybody because, like, you go do that with death metal, they're going to be like, okay, Obituary and Cannibal Corpse, not Frozen Soul and whatever, just because they're new, even though they're just as good.
Yeah, like, if you like Bolt Thrower, you're going to like Frozen Soul. How can't you not?
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, why? If you enjoy the music and you're appreciating that band, why not expose it to other people so they can also enjoy it and help other people get exposed to it, to where that band can continue to make music and actually have the resources to be able to make music and, everything that comes with it.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have side by side Youth of Today, Judge, 7 Seconds doing these like huge shows if there weren't younger bands that were introducing kids to the genre.
Right.
In 2024.
Yeah, I completely
so
agree.
it all comes full circle.
Do you ever jam Title Fight? You remember that band?
Yeah, okay, so this is probably going to be a really controversial opinion. I thought Title Fight was the most boring live band I had ever seen.
Okay, I've never seen.
I've
never seen them live. I only brought them up because of the Youth of Today thing. Like, it seemed like the singer was always in a Youth of Today t-shirt. But
and they were hardcore kids, and they had their own, like, they had a side project band that was like a hardcore band. But like I just for music that was coming out at that time that kind of sounded like that, they just were not my cup of tea. I was really into, like, around that time I was really into Make Do and Mend. This band from Connecticut that was on they were on like Panic, which was a dude from Trials label.
Oh, okay.
And I think they went on to like Rise or Pure Noise or like one of those labels. That band was insanely good, and like was kind of in that same
vein
universe. They were like a little bit more on like the Touche Amore, like La Dispute kind of side, but they were definitely like not as artsy as those bands. They were a little bit more like straightforward and had like more hardcore influence.
That's cool.
But like I love stuff like Saves the Day. What other stuff do I listen to? Like Tidal. Like I listen to like a lot. Like I was jamming Stateside California today. I think they probably just go by Stateside. That band rips. There's a lot of good like pop punk stuff out now, but like, yeah, Title Fight just never did it for me.
Yeah, no, I just I really like the Floral Green album and the writing in it, but I was just bringing that up because like I said, it, like the youth, like how all these bands, like you were saying, Youth of Today, Judge, influence all these kids and you don't even realize it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never even listened to Title Fight. I was just looking it up to see if it was like something that rang a bell.
Well, the only reason I like heard about him was I saw Aaron from Bane wearing a Title Fight long sleeve sweatshirt or something, and I was like, Title Fight? What the fuck is that? And that's how I discovered him.
The community of
they
band
played.
shirts that have helped other people find bands is
crazy.
that's literally the best advertisement you could have as a band.
There's a so Title Fight played that last Bane show, or the what was supposed to be the last Bane show.
Yeah, I went to 2 of those.
And I think the ones in Worcester.
No, but I mean, I went to 2 last Bane shows.
Oh, yeah, I think they've had a couple now.
Yeah.
They'll probably have a couple more. Yeah, I remember seeing Title Fight at that show, and I booked Title Fight a couple times in Denver, and yeah, it just wasn't my thing. But I love that kids love it. Good for them.
For sure. I don't even think they all went to school or something anyway, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what I know, like, there's, whenever people online talk about like bands that they want to see get back together, a lot of people always bring up Title Fight. So I would assume that at some point someone will offer them the correct amount of money to
I was
play
gonna
another
say,
show or
yep.
something. But I don't really believe that bands break up anymore. They're just on hiatus
Yeah,
until they
Well,
decide
yeah,
they're gonna play another show.
they actually never said anything. They just were like, "Here's our last record. Here's a video, little tour.
Well, I mean, look
Catch you later."
look at like Black Sabbath and Kiss and all those guys
Oh,
that
yeah.
were like, "Oh, we're quitting,"
yeah.
and then they never quit. Like for it'd be like 30 years down the
I
road,
know.
and they're still going. So maybe people have learned from that, where they're like,
like
maybe
the
we
Ozzy
shouldn't say
farewell.
anything in case we get back together.
Or the Black Sabbath farewells. Like,
yeah, that actually, I think the last one was the last
one. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I went to a Kiss farewell tour in 1996, I think.
Yeah, and they just
Or maybe it
played
wasn't.
their farewell show like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Unless Jeremy has anything, I'm gonna get to the question.
Oh, yeah.
So
No, I'm good. Ask the question.
all right, so I don't know if you listened to any of our other episodes, and you already said Morrissey, so you can't use that. But we always ask people, what is something that you listen to that people wouldn't expect you to listen to?
Ooh. I'm trying to think, because like I post a lot about on my personal like social media, like a lot of the stuff that I listen to that isn't hardcore.
Yeah. Oh, you
So
said
I'm trying to think
you
of
said you're a
something.
record collector too. Is there
Oh,
anything
yeah.
outside of like hardcore and punk and stuff that you collect?
Oh god, yeah. Like I collect like a lot of like the dark wave stuff, like Cold Cave, Dry Majesty,
Oh, nice.
She Passed Away, like that kind of stuff. Like I remember I think it was Jeremy maybe like posted a Concrete Blonde record
Yep.
on his Instagram, and I saw that and I was like, oh fuck yeah, I love Concrete Blonde. But like as far as like stuff that I listen to that people might not know, damn.
I don't even know if
I
I
don't
could
like
answer that question, to be honest.
Okay, so I think
I could.
if I have like
I know,
any like
two that are
I don't listen to a lot of electronic music,
right.
but there's this guy named DJ Kiyoki, and he put out a record called Disco Death Race 2000, and it is like one of my all-time favorite records. And it's like I don't think you can find it on streaming. I like found a copy of it like in a hard drive that I had like a long time ago, and got there was, when I was in high school, there was this girl that I was like interested in, and her older sister like went to raves, so she went to raves, so I went to raves because I wanted to like hang out with this girl.
For sure.
And that was like there's like a couple like lasting musical impressions that experience made on me, and one of them was this guy DJ Kiyoki. So I'm a big DJ Kiyoki fan. That's
Shout out to
my
DJ
dirty little
Kiyoki.
musical secret. I really like Tori Amos too, but I talk about that a lot, so I don't think anybody doesn't know that.
Well, I didn't. I do now though.
Yeah.
I like Tori
Okay,
Amos.
you do.
After we get off of this podcast here, I got to ask you something about Tori Amos and your record collection there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the new that band Crashing Forward from San Diego, their new record is called Silent All These Years. And I reached out to Audie, the singer, and I was like, yo, is that a Tori Amos reference?
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh no, but I guess it could be."
Oh, he didn't even do it on purpose? Huh.
I was like, "It would have been way cooler if you had said yes, but that's still a good record, so it's all good."
All right, man. Do you have anything else that you want to get off your chest before we wrap things up here?
No, man. Just
No,
I was asking Mark,
probably
not you.
disclosed. I probably disclosed more than I wanted to in this interview by talking about NA beer and that I don't like Title Fight. I'm sure we're gonna get trashed when people hear that, but
Fuck 'em.
sorry, it's just me. I'm
it's
sure the
all right.
rest of the dudes in the band
It's
love
just
Title
opinions.
Fight, so don't hate us because I thought they were boring.
They'll get over it.
Yeah, I hope so.
Or forget about it by
but
the
yeah,
day after, anyways.
Yeah, somebody will get canceled like shortly after they
Yeah.
get that information, and the cycle will reset itself, and I'll disappear.
Well, all right, man. We'll let you get going, and we appreciate your time, and thank you for allowing us to sit and chat with you. And we look forward to any upcoming show announcements and the EP getting repressed from Heroes and Martyrs.
Yeah, thanks for getting on, man. And I'll hit you up later about that Tori Amos thing. I gotta go
you just
home
won't ask me
first.
now?
I gotta go home first and send you some pictures.
Okay, sick. Well, cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. You have a good night.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Peace.